Good evening, it's Pete, Mindwiseman's channel, aka Maverick Outdoors, and I'm out on a Thursday evening until Sunday to do more canoe camping, do a few extra different activities to usual, also a bit of long-term fishing. But it's unbelievable how calm the river is, considering the past few days we've had wind weather warnings where there's been gusts of wind taking branches down, upsetting garden furniture, and I was really expecting the downpour, the rain we've had over the past few days, sort of 50-mile radius of the Thames, to get into the water table and to sort of affect the flow of the river. But to be perfectly honest, it's far calmer than what it was the other week when I paddled in the rain. But I'm going to turn the light off now, and you can sort of see now, as I've lifted up to the horizon, there's a slightly different colour in the lower half. Obviously it's very blurred because it's at a distance, but it's the river and the trees, and that lighter band of grey in the middle is where the sky starts. As I say, it's not very clear, but it's not much different to the visibility that you have when you're actually night paddling. But you can see there's hardly any movement in the water at all, and any sort of bits of shrubbery or leaves are actually not even going past. And the other side, next to the gunnel, you can see is just really calm water, so it's really nice, really quite a surprise. I was expecting the weather to be inclement for this paddle. There was going to be a lot of broadside winds. I know there's going to be a bit of rain later on, so I better get a paddle on so I can set up. One of my favourite times, least amount of light, setting up my basher in the dark, and continue to make my way to my riverbank camp. So the darkness has now really fallen. I've just come to my wild camp pitch, and the temperature's started to drop, and there's going to be scheduled to rain late tonight, and it could be heavy, and then tomorrow is going to be really bright and sunny, so we've got some real schizoid weather. So I've just sort of angled the profile down a little bit more so it can shunt the rainwater off if it is a heavy downpour. Plus as well, it just makes it a little bit more protective against the breeze. If it really kicks up windy, I'm going to lower the two ridge poles and take it right down so the edges are actually in contact with the floor, so I'm actually encased within the shelter. But the temperatures really start to drop now, so I'm going to get in my comfy chair yet again and knock up some food, because once you get some food inside you, it's really going to raise the body temperature. So that's dehydrated minced beef hot pot, so there's a good few calories in that, and I've just got to add just over 400 millilitres of water, so I'll get everything sparked up with my Coleman stove that's in that little black bag that I made many years ago to put it in, and boil up some water. There's just something about when you set up your pitch on a wild camp and you're out in nature, and even though it's nice and crisp and cold, you're well togged up, got your thermals on, all your relevant clothing. You know it's cold around you, but you spark up the old camp stove, ready to make something to eat, whilst just sitting back and relaxing in the great outdoors. And here I am, sitting out in the freezing cold, but loving it, underneath my shelter, and just seeing what the night's going to bring. I don't know whether I'm going to set up and do some night fishing tonight, but definitely got it planned for the next few days to do some fishing with my longer rod compared to the canoe rod I had last time. So I've got a Majestic rod with me this next few days, and a few other little activities, a few little different maybe sort of demonstrations or little bits of content of what I'm going to be doing over these next few days, which will be slightly different from usual. So yeah, all good stuff. In a little while, once I've had something to eat, got some calories down my throat, had a bit of a chill, I'm going to prepare a fire pit in my normal space that I do at this pitch, and approximately around about there where it was a leave no trace from the previous time. So I've got the fire pit for the next few days for a bit of warmth, a bit of central heating, and also some cooking as well. So a little technique I like to do is, once I've poured the boiling water in the dehydrated meal, give it a good stir round, then of course seal it up, and then wrap it, insulate it so the heat stays in the actual rehydrating process. Just makes it more effective. Plus, especially this cold night tonight, it's even more appropriate to do that. So you can see it's just a little kneeling mat that's insulated just around the main surfaces. But this time I definitely brought enough food, plus there's some in my kit holder for the next 3 nights. Part of tomorrow, then Saturday's going to be sunny, but it's going to be really cold though. But you know, it's all worth it. No such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothing. And nice food to eat when you're outdoors. Plenty of yumminess. So the wind has now kicked up a little bit as predicted, and the rain has also kicked in. But I'm ready to have my minced beef hot pot. That'll warm me up as I listen to the pitter patter of the rain on the tarp. And I've decided to have a second course because the cold really makes you hungry. So what I did, I had a dry packet of minestrone soup that you just add water in a teacup, and also some barbecue beef jerky. So there is the Peshwari naan, which I just split and just put a bit of butter in it. And those, I bought a pack of those to actually have with my 3 breakfasts tomorrow and the following 2 days. And then the minestrone soup, which has got also a squirt of tomato sauce. Give that a bit of a stir, and that's going to be nice and hot. And it will soften the beef jerky a little bit, so it just adds a little bit of a beef flavour. So that sort of still gives it a tangy flavour. So that's my second course. It should have been a starter. Normally you have a soup for a starter, but the rain started to pitter patter again. You can hear it. And if it does die down a bit, I mean, I might put more waterproofs on, but I might if it does die down a little bit, then I'll definitely get that fire pit dug. So it's coming up to about midnight, and I've prepped the fire pit ready for tomorrow. I'm not going to get the fire going tonight. And then also prepped a load of firewood underneath that 6x3 tarp. Sort of laid the wood on half of it, and of course folded the other half over the top just in case there's any rain during the night. But that's all standing deadwood. And as I just sit back and savour my labours, I'm now going to have a little midnight snack. Some peanut butter powder drink, and also some rather lavish chocolate, almond and orange. Oh God, don't get better than this, does it? And then some popcorn, peanut and sunflower seed bars. So I'm just going to down that, chill for a little while, and then settle for the night. It's a now cold and crisp Friday morning, the 24th of November, and yeah, the temperature actually dropped even just before daybreak this morning, more than what it was late last night. So a main consideration this time of year, of course, is the temperatures dropping and having safe and comfortable clothing to wear during the day, and especially during the night when you sleep. I tend to wear a little bit less when I'm paddling because, of course, I'm physically active, and I've sort of got natural body heat, although I sort of will have waterproofs or thermals on, but obviously less layers than what I'm actually wearing now. So when I'd set the pitch and settled and arrived here last night and set up my basher, I had my vest on, my t-shirt on top of that, and then a long sleeve fleece pullover with just a half zip going up to the top, and then my body warmer. And that actually did me for the evening until I settled for the night. And then when I was ready to go to sleep, I actually put my softy jacket on and softy trousers over my normal trousers. But the reason why I'm highlighting my sleep system like I normally do, although it varies from time to time, not only because if people have not seen my travels before, they're going to ask questions, but also this tends to be a little bit different from what I was expecting, because I was going to bring my Czech Army trouser liners with me, the ones that I wore last time, and wear them underneath my normal cargo trousers during the day if it was that cold, and especially during the night. And then when I was going to go to sleep, put my softy trousers over the top, so I've got would have had 3 layers, and then I would have only needed the 2-season British Army Tropical Army sleeping bag. But this, I've got 2 of them, and this is, I think, a little bit slightly thinner. It definitely feels thinner to the touch as far as the sort of lofting of the material. The external and the internal are the same material. This one states on the label it was manufactured in 2003, and my other one was manufactured in 2005, whereby the inner lining was a slightly softer material, softer to the touch and not as sort of quite cool touching either. So say this one is identical inside and outside, but my other one I normally use has got that slightly different feel to it, and I think it definitely feels a little bit more loftier with the thermal insulation. So there's obviously going to be some sort of slight difference within manufacture or how and who produces them, albeit the shape, size, design, pattern of the stitching, zip, etc. are all identical. So my plan was, instead of bringing my 3-season sleeping bag, this would be a small pack away, so would the trousers, so would the jacket. And my original plan to have the Czech Army quilted thermal liners underneath these trousers didn't quite work out. I'd been washing some of my kit, leaving it to dry, and I knew the trousers had dried, ready to pack away. But in the rush to get out and packing all the stuff, I left the liner trousers at home. So it sort of scuppered the logistics of how I was going to work my thermal layers for this weekend. So the point being, the layers were going to be the liners underneath these trousers, these softy trousers over the top, and then the 2-season Army sleeping bag over the top of that, which would have been much more thermal. Although I was comfortable last night, it could have been a little bit warmer if I'd have had my under trouser liners with me. So as far as my upper body under the 2-season sleeping bag, I was really warm, albeit I've actually brought with me an extra layer sort of heavy duty jacket, which is my NBC jacket that I washed the charcoal out of, and that in itself is lightweight and thermal. So what I might do is, I know it's going to be colder even tonight, I might try and improvise maybe this jacket on my legs and then actually wear the NBC jacket, and I'm sure that's going to keep me warm enough. But watch this space, and I'll explain a little bit more if I have to do that. It's good to highlight, you know, things that you're doing as far as sleep layers or part of your camp routine, even if it's similar to a previous time. There's always slight little improvisations and amendments that you might have to make. Literally not until me getting here and unpacking my kit, realising and thinking, ah, yeah, I left my Czech Army liners And my two sleep mats, 1.2 metre army issue, were the same as the last time I was out, where one is just slightly bridged up a bit further, just to make that angle on some kit to make my head rest to sleep for the night. And again, as I was saying, you know, the time that you don't actually describe some aspects of your camp routine will be the time that you get an inquiry asking questions to do that little bit of information. So of course the main thing being, over the next few days, the big priority was keeping warm and having the relevant kit with me. And something else I always do when I'm finished with the sleep mats, partially deflate them, get them safely out the way so they don't get damaged. Fold up the sleeping bag, give it a quick shake air in, put that on top of the folded mats, and then I've got some nice clear admin space to do my daily activities under the basher. So I've now got my breakfast things ready, and just how I like to be organised. Everything's sort of set out specifically, so obviously my chair is nice and comfortable in reach of where I'm going to be cooking on the table, and the table is just slightly out the way so I can walk through if I need to, like I did just now when I needed to get the eggs out of the base of that bag. As I walk back out, I'm in line with the height of the tarp, which is one of the reasons why I'm sort of like been keeping to this configuration over the past half a dozen wild camps or so. Stating the obvious really, but it's just I like to sort of share maybe a few ideas maybe where people don't sort of have any idea of, you know, where you should put all your admin space, and just sort of project it out. So I've now got myself set up for the day anyway. 3-in-1 coffee, large portion, touch of sugar. Peshwari naans just lightly toasted over the burner of the 533 stove. Tin of beans. And 2 fried eggs out of that 6 egg box. And something different to usual, the way I'm going to sort of like lightly grill either toast or in this case the Peshwari naans. You can see I've got my knife and fork and just using it sort of as a clamp. Not going to hold it too near because obviously I don't want the heat to travel up the metal, but of course it won't do providing I place it appropriately. Brekkie brunch time, bring it on. So besides my stuff sack that held the sleeping bag, which I can either sort of draw the webbing cords and sort of compact it or just keep it softer, and I normally sort of lay it lengthways rather than compacting up and make it into a solid weight, there was that, and then also these 2 bags. The small one that's inside here contained the trousers, and the softy jacket was in this bag. So besides other sundries being in this holdall, solar shower. What, in this cold weather? Maybe more about that later on. And in my dry bag is sort of like clothing, t-shirts, that sort of thing. And then in this bag, which normally is issued to contain the inflatable mat, inside the bag was my NBC jacket, all nicely rolled up. I'll shake it out a bit, get a bit of a loft to it. But this jacket I've had for nearly 10 years now, with the green trousers that I've worn quite a lot. Again, if you've followed my travels, you'd have seen the trousers that match this jacket. I've used quite a lot. I mean, they're lightweight. If they do get a bit damp, they really dry easily. But this internal layer, which is quite sort of a rough type of cotton fibre, was impregnated with charcoal. But the trousers and this jacket, I really agitated, washed them about half a dozen times to get the charcoal out, because it does have a funny sort of aroma. It's probably the process, whether it's sort of a chemical or a sort of adhesion process, that enables the charcoal to absorb and impregnate that inner lining. I've sort of washed that out. It makes it lightweight, but it's really thermal for its lightness and the thinness of the material. It really defies how warm it can be. So with the remaining clothes I had on earlier, the vest, the t-shirt, the long sleeved fleece that you can actually see a little bit better now, and the body warmer, I'm going to put this jacket over the top of the clothing that I've got on now. So the two bellows pockets of that jacket, either side, I can actually put some kit, considering if I keep that as my outer garment, I've only got two side pockets, but then I've also got two side pockets on my trousers. And what I'm thinking of doing is actually putting my softy trousers against my skin on the inside and putting my normal day wear cargo trousers over the top, so the actual softies are the internal liner. And then keeping my normal trousers, the two pockets that I've got on the legs and also the two side pockets, just to put things in, so it's easier than actually having the softy trousers and jacket on the outside. Having that sort of day wear moving around is a little bit less practical. Obviously it has its uses, I've actually done that before, but what I'm thinking of doing is maybe using this is going to be warm enough tonight underneath the sleeping bag, but if my legs get a bit cold, then I'll probably somehow improvise this jacket as a second layer, because it's mainly my legs a little bit more sensitive to the cold than my upper body, so I think this will come in as the improvisation. So I've got my softy trousers under my cargo trousers. As you can see, I've got my NBC jacket on now, on top of all the other layers, and two big bellows pockets, and the zip with the Velcro, nice and lightweight, but it's going to keep me thermal. Plus as well, the hood comes over the top. But what I did, I actually cut some pieces out and then used a sewing machine to make a sort of a small peak, because the gas mask is normally fitted and then this goes over the top. This has a sort of a funny shape to it, it sort of goes up. So I trimmed it down a little bit and just made it a little bit more day wear. That Velcro's across. So this will do me for now as I get ready to get some kit over there and do some fishing. So it's coming up to about nearly 4:30 on Friday, 24th of November. Although it says 8 degrees there, obviously that's London temperatures, and I'm nowhere near London. It must be at least half of that, whereby I wouldn't say it's more than about 4 degrees, if that. And where the temperature has dropped and the sky is pretty clear. There's mist now on the river, which is a real indication that even at this time of the evening or late afternoon, as it's getting dark, the temperature's really dropping, and it is scheduled to go to naught, anything from 2 degrees to naught. So it's going to be far colder than last night. You know, just sitting here anticipating maybe catching a fish. If not, then fine. If I'm not expecting anything and I get something, that's when you get your adrenaline rush and you feel like a kid in a toy shop. So yeah, it's just nice and peaceful to be here, and just to get the fishing kit out, have a bit of fun with it, and if I catch something then great. But I'm going to get the fire going in a little while and make something to eat. I don't believe it, I just got a splash just in front of me, about 4 foot away from the bank. Saw a fish come to the surface and my line went tight. The float had disappeared, and it's like, right, quick, pick up the rod. And by that time it had sort of swum back. Obviously must have panicked, realised there was something going wrong, because the bait, their quarry, was obviously trapped. There's a tip on my rod there, it's a bit dark, but it's now snagged me on the edge of the bank. So I'm hooked underneath that little grass tuft there. So I've just decked the rod, and you can see I think there's some old fallen branches in the water, but you can see where I've wound the float right up to the tip of the rod. The line's going straight down into the water and the hook must be snagged. I can see a few little minnows down there. Just seen one, I don't know if the camera picked it up, but if there's any live bait sort of 2-3 inches swimming around, then it's definitely perch. And I think it was a perch, because it all flashed up over there, or should I say the scale, the dorsal fin, and it did look, just on sort of reflection, it did look a little bit stripy. So hopefully it was a perch, because if it was, it might be fish supper. Although I've got some other nice edifications. But yeah, it was definitely snagged on a little bit of wood down there, so it looks like I'm going to have to try and lean over and cut the line. At least I've saved the float, and then re-hook and bait again, and see if they're still going to be biting even this time of night. Really unusual considering how cold it's got as well. So I've just rested the rod on its support, and luckily enough, as you can see at the end of the rod, there's the float as I was saying earlier, but it's got the hook and the bait. So I didn't lose the hook after all. So one of the techniques to help you unsnag a hook if it's got caught on anything under the water is to sort of pull it one way, pull it the other way, then get the tip of the rod, push it out. So if you imagine where my finger is, it's all the direction. And eventually what I did, I sort of held onto the tree to my left and sort of leant over without losing balance to fall in the water, because I don't want to be going in it in this temperature this time of night. And held on for dear life, and then started to push the rod that way, and all of a sudden, bonk, it sprung up, and I thought, oh, the line's broken. But there it was, with the bait still on it on the hook, so that was lucky. Okay, so if you joined me in my last video when I was out with a small canoe rod, I incorporated using one of these on the top of the float, a little glow stick light. And they're just like sort of little fluorescent glow sticks. And you just break them and they glow. And this is the one that I used last time, over a week ago. And I'm just going to see, when I opened this fishing tackle box on Wednesday, which is about 5-6 days after I'd actually used this, it was still glowing. I mean, it wasn't as bright, but I mean, this thing was going, it must have been for about 4 or 5 days at least. So hopefully the one that I've just fitted on the end of the float there, I'm just going to turn the light off. And let's give it another close up again. And that's going to be shining on the surface of the water. Oh, you can see the mist coming across now. But there is about the exact spot where it took the bite previously. So I've got some cycling wristbands that have obviously sort of contracted themselves into a tube. You can span them out and put them around your wrist. They're luminous when there's a light shine on them. As you can see, they're quite bright now. And there's another one that I've just put on the V shape of the rod rest. But if I turn my head torch off, you can see that tiny little speck of light, which is the little float glow stick that was left over from the other week. Okay, so I've just done a really crude reflector, just really quick and easy to do, 2 uprights at the back and then those horizontals, which eventually could be firewood, but I've got enough firewood anyway. But that was just appropriate to do, considering it's getting quite misty now. It was getting cold. I was going to do something more elaborate. I might do that tomorrow, but that's going to serve the job tonight when I get the fire going, and it should be ready to cook in about an hour's time. But meanwhile, you can hear that hissing in the background to make a brew. Cup ready there with tea bag and some sugar, and I'm going to have some rich tea biscuits just to sort of fill an empty hole in my stomach because I'm getting a bit peckish now. I haven't eaten since sort of brunchy breakfast time, so I'll have that for a snack. That will keep me going to then get that fire pit going. Looking forward to it. Even though it's sort of chilly, misty, it's still nice to have a challenge and do these things outdoors. So, what have I got to cook on that fire? Well, I've got, just here, some lentils, a Jamie Oliver sort of concoction. It's already cooked. You normally use this in the microwave, heat it up using a microwave or in a saucepan. So I'm going to add these to the sausages once I've cooked them in my old faithful saucepan. I was actually going to maybe set up the grid, but I didn't actually bring the grid with me. I was thinking of bringing it, sort of making a little recess in the side, putting it down and putting some coals underneath like I've done many times before. But I'm going to do it nice and quick and easy, just roll fry them in the frying pan, and once they're cooked, drain some of the oil off, and then add that pack of lentils and add a bit of seasoning to it as well. Just add my extra flavouring. Something splashing about in the water. I think it was a goose. Also a massive great fish, which I've just missed from my hook because I've got it laying up at the moment. So now I'm going to get some food on the go and enjoy also the warmth of the fire.